In these perilous times, see from current events how biblical prophecy is coming to pass in front of our eyes. You're watching In the Last Days, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. With Martin and Natalie Blackham, thank you to our friends and partners who make this program possible. Now, here's Martin and Natalie.
Hi, welcome to the In the Last Days television program with myself, Martin Blackham. Natalie says hello, she's behind the scenes today. We are the program that looks at Israel, we look at the news, we look at what's going on. Well, of course, the news at the moment is about, very sadly, about all the terror attacks in Israel. And one of the journalists, or a few of the journalists, were mentioning about the central role of the Temple Mount. So we've got in the studio today again our good friend Rabbi Yehudah Glick. Thank you so much for coming over to join us, and we appreciate you giving us your time. And thank you.
It's always great to come here. It's really a privilege to see you and Natalie and the family, because you're bringing a lot of light to Israel and from Israel to the world.
Thank you. So Rabbi Yehudah Glick is the chairman of the Temple Mount Heritage Foundation and director of the Halibat organization, a coalition of groups dedicated to reaching complete and comprehensive freedom and civil rights for Jewish people on the Temple Mount. Yehudah previously worked as an executive director of the Temple Institute and as a former spokesman for Government Minister Yuli Edelstein at the Ministry of Absorption and Immigration. He's also very involved with the Likud Party and stood in the recent March 2015 Israeli elections, and wasn't too far. You weren't too far away from...
Actually, next on line, very close.
If anybody else goes, you could be in the Knesset.
The Likud received 30 seats. I'm number 33. One already left. That's Danny Danon, who went to become our ambassador in the United Nations. And there's one, it looks like what we call her the Norwegian law, which will bring in the next number 32. And then I'll be next on line. My wife is praying that I won't succeed to go in there. Right. And I'm not, I can't say I'm falling off the floor, falling off the chair, waiting impatiently for that, because I do have a lot to do. If God decides that that's what he wants me to do, I'll serve him through that position as well, I hope.
And you've recently launched the book, which we've got in the studio today, and we're going to be talking about Arise and Ascend. And this is a guide, Arise and Ascend, a guide to the Temple Mount. And this is hot off the press, and our viewers can get that even as they watch the program today. They can. What's the best way they can get that?
The easiest way is just go into our website, TempleMountHeritage.com. TempleMountHeritage.com. You can press the purchase book, Arise and Ascend, or you can press the donate book if you want, pay a dump button. You can go into the page at TempleMountHeritage.com. You're welcome to read newest stories about the Temple Mount, and that's where you can find us, and you can find the book. It's on sale. It's right now for $25, including the shipping, and you're welcome to buy it. It's really the first guide to the Temple Mount, where you can actually, there are plenty of books about the Temple Mount, but as a guide built, the book is really built to be a guide, to take you step by step on your own onto the Temple Mount. It so far came out in Russian, English, and it's coming out this week in Hebrew. And we're right now working on translating it to Portuguese and German. We hope that it'll be, so far the responses have been very, 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 very popular, very positive. There are pictures here of a high quality for the first time, many of them. And really you can go around and take yourself one tour, two tours, several tours onto the Temple Mount.
And if you would like to get a hold of the book, we're going to put the details were on your screen, how you can get that. Now, one of the things all the viewers ask, and people ask us when they see us and they see you, is first of all, how's your health? Because a lot of people were saying, well, after a year after a very serious incident, the attempted assassination attempt at the Menachem Begin Center, how are you getting on with your health? And
I must say that really, I don't know if people are aware of the fact that, Israel has gone through several terror attacks in its history, but assassination attempts, which means that the terrorist knows exactly who he wants to take care of. There have been very few, and all of them have concluded, I would say, quote, no quote, successfully in the eyes of the assassin. And in my case, the only case in the history of the State of Israel, in terms of attempt to assassinate somebody on a national background, I'm the only one who's survived. And therefore, I can tell you that God's hands was definitely involved here. I was shot point blank. And Baruch Hashem, where this is exactly a year, it was October 29th last year, and we're marking an anniversary in several different events, praising God. Because, you know, when I was lying there connected to the different machines in the trauma room or in the emergency room or in the ICCU department of the Shari Tzedek Hospital, many people around the world were praying and begging. And sometimes we have a tendency to beg and to pray and to request. And when it comes time to thanking, we forget. So one of the basics, anybody who reads the book of Deuteronomy, we see again and again where God's repeating, don't forget. Don't forget where it comes from. You know, the story of the guy looking for a parking spot and begging God, please help me, please help me, please help me. If you help me, I'll give charity. And last minute he finds a parking spot. He says, oh, God, I'm getting along alone. I don't need your help anymore. Yeah, so we have a tendency that when things work out, we take them for granted. And therefore we are strongly now in the midst of events, following events, praising God and thanking Him for the great miracle He has done on my behalf. But it's not only on my behalf, because the gentleman, if you can call him a gentleman, the guy who tried to assassinate me, didn't do it because because we were in some kind of in the midst of some kind of argument, or he didn't like the color of my hair, or he didn't like the style of my jacket. He did it because I symbolized the connection between the people of Israel and Jerusalem, and he represented the claim that the fact that the Jewish people returned to Jerusalem is a threat, so-called, on the very existence of Islam, and therefore he found the easy way is to try to get rid of me, but God thought otherwise. And that night, he was murdered. He was killed back. The Israeli security system took care of him, and I'm alive, and he's dead. And now the Israeli security also lately removed his house because we want to send out a message that we're here to live in peace with all of our inhabitants and all the people living around here. We're happy to live with the greatest of neighborhood behavior, but if anybody, we are here to say strongly, firmly, fluently, I would say, without any dilemma. We're here to say clear cut, out clear, zero tolerance for violence. When it comes to terror, we will protect our people.
And if you've just joined us, we have Yehudah Glick, Rabbi Yehudah Glick, in the studio, and we're talking about the new book, The Arise and Ascend, the Guide to the Temple Mount. Details are on your screen. How you can order that, and this is a book that they need by on their bookshelf. This is a very important guide. It's the first guide to the Temple Mount, and it's really packed full of information. Now, if you turn in the guide to the back of it, there's a wonderful picture of your good self, Yehudah, with Netanyahu. Maybe you can tell us a bit about that.
Since this book, as I said, is the first guide to the Temple Mount, since the Temple Mount is just not another attraction, a tourist site, but it's I felt that it was only obvious that the first copy of the book would go to Netanyahu. So when we met a month ago or a few weeks ago, I right away showed him the book. We sat there and we read through it together. He was very excited. He's a lover of Jewish history, and he really was so excited that I gave him the book. And I wanted to point out, connecting to what we spoke about before, two things. First, the person who tried to kill me wanted to wipe out the connection between the Jewish people and Jerusalem. God, in saving my life, didn't only save my life, but actually that event, which was on the eyes of this guy, was supposed to be an end to the connection between the people of Israel and the world to Temple Mount. Actually, that moment was a milestone in the connection of people to the Temple Mount. So God has his ways. He takes that exact event, which somebody had an intention of evil, turn it into good. So this book it came out of that event. Right after that event, we said, okay, we have to double our activity. We were triply motivated. We said, we have to go ahead. And this is one of the things we're doing, and we're also training guides to the Temple Mount. We're offering. And another point that I wanted to point out, this book came out first in Russian. People ask me, why in Russian first? And the reason was, it was a means of gratitude to two friends of mine, very close friends of mine, Yitzchak and Talia Imas, I met them first in Moscow in 1990.
And they'd made Aliyah
from Russia. They were living here in Israel. They were studying and they were guiding tours on Temple Mount. And 5 years ago, they were killed right near their home in the Hebron Mountain, in the city, in a settlement called Bet Chagai. And I felt that in their honor, these two people were killed. Their lives is continuing. So with the first, the book came out. Not only did it came out and dedicated to them, it came out by their organization, the Meeting Place Association. We financed this book. The Temple Mount Heritage Foundation, who you'll see in the book, was who financed this book. But we decided we're not going to put it out. We're going to put it out in their organization. So it's coming out by the Meeting Place Association, dedicated to the memory of my good friend Yitzchak and Talia Imas. You can actually see them here in the book, and there's a story about them and their 6 children. And I can tell you that ever since their lives were taken, their family is also in the hands of God. He's really doing so much for them. 3 of their kids of their 6 children are married now. They have grandchildren, two grandsons named after them, Yitzchak and Yitzchak. Maybe when there will be a granddaughter, she'll be named after Talia also. But I wanted to point out that in our eyes, death won't bring an end. Death will motivate us to continue. We don't choose death. We choose life. We want to live. But if any of our enemies thinks that by killing our people, he's going to put any blockage on our activity, he should know that each one of these activities is an extra motivation for us to continue to bring that, to show the world that God is a God of life and not a God of death.
Now, in the book, Yehudah, it says there's a. I was looking at it, and it said there's a walk round the exterior walls of the Temple Mount and the Western Wall. So, what our viewers can expect when they order the book is that they can be able to see how to walk around.
We wanted to give a comprehensive picture of the book of the Temple Mount, a comprehensive view of the Temple Mount. You can either see it from inside, but very often the gates are closed. You know, the gates are open for non-Muslims presently only 3 hours a day, where it's open for Muslims 12 hours a day. So we said, okay, you get to the gate and it's closed. Why not go around for a walk around the exterior walls? Or if you feel that, I always say going to Temple Mount is not something you just get up and say, I'm going to Temple Mount. You prepare yourself. You feel you're not prepared. You're not ready to go into the courtyards of the palace of God. What are you going to do then? Take a look or walk around. And here what we have, we're showing each one of the walls. Sometimes people see mistakenly, they say the Western Wall is the only most ancient remnant of the Temple Mount. No, the Western Wall plaza is a small part of the entire Western Wall. But there's a Southern Wall, and there's a Western Wall, there's a Northern Wall, there's an Eastern Wall. Actually, I say people, the Temple Mount has totally, all the walls have been destructed except for 4. The East, the West, the South, and the North are all standing there 2,000 years. 2,000 years, those walls are there. There were earthquakes here. There were everything. Those walls are standing there, and you can actually see them. We put in a special chapter dealing with the Western Wall tunnels, because that's something you have to go in through, and we have all the information about how do you make up and go into that. And the Western Wall tunnels, what happens is the wall, what we can see, is only what's exposed. Right. But under the ground is another double the size of what we see. So you can go into the Western Wall tunnel, and here we're guided to the Western Wall tunnel. Then we have the option of going onto the Temple Mount, ascending the Temple Mount, And here, what you see in there, as you walk in, what's the first step, second? Now, of course, all of this is with a background of telling us why it's such a central place. The background, the history of the Jerusalem temple, the chronology, but the concept of a temple. What is a temple at all? Why does God, who's something so spiritual, why does he need a temple in this world? So all of these things we're trying to deal with simply. It's not an encyclopedia. It's not a book of research. It's a book dealing with a guide for a person who wants to go and take a look and get knowledge. We also have bibliography where you can study about. We have access to. We have pointing out what the other organizations that are dealing with it. For instance, there's I just opened the page, the Sifting Temple Mount. You can go see the remnants of the Temple Mount being sifted and being studied, and it's really, as I said, a comprehensive thing. One more thing I wanted to point out, and I think it's very interesting to point out. Very often we are blamed that we are going against. We're not going against anybody. The back of this book has 3 blessings. One from a Jewish rabbi, Rabbi Shlomo Riskin. One from a Muslim leader, Adnan Oktar. He's a Turkish Muslim leader who has printed already 300 books, translated into 75 different languages. He has millions of supporters around the world. And Pastor Keith Johnson, who was a Christian pastor. And we're trying to say that the Temple Mount is a house of prayer for all nations, and we're going to do that. We're not going to let anybody, not radical Muslims, not anybody, to prevent us from continuing to bring about this message.
Now, one of the things that you're going to be able to read about, and it's a fantastic book because it's so detailed. It's not a very thick book, but it's so detailed. And one of the things I found very fascinating was the issue of the foundation stone, which I have not heard very many people talk about. Now, you talk a bit about there's some information about the foundation stone.
Yeah, the foundation stone. We made a special chapter about it because that's the center of the whole thing. You know, the Temple Mount, which is called Zion in the Bible, but it's also called the divine place of God, Mishkan Kvodecha, the place where God's presence, His divine presence rests. Mishkan from the word resting. And we think that people go into the Temple Mount, sometimes you look at the mosque, but you don't realize that the building there, that gold dome, is the Dome of the Rock. Even the name of it is the Dome of the Rock. People sometimes call it excuse me. People sometimes call it the Omar Mosque, but it's not a mosque. It's a dome to protect that stone. And here we have pictures of the stone. You can actually see a picture of what the stone looks like. You can actually try to understand the different traditions about the stone. And
there's a concept in the Talmud of the stone being the actual creation, not just, now I'm not sure about this, but it's the creation of the world, but also maybe perhaps a creation of the universe? Is that?
Yeah, look, of course we're not talking about something physical here. It's the connection, the foundation stone of the world is what the Midrash tells us. That this is where God began creating the world. What does that mean? The first verse of the Torah is, in the beginning God created heaven and earth. And we read it, it seems like a simple verse, but it's trying to point out. It's an answer at the time where people were saying, no, there's a God of the heaven and the God of the earth. There are different gods dealing with different, and we're trying to say, heaven and earth meet. How can heaven and earth meet? This is the foundation stone of the world. At this point is the place, I would say the Temple Mount or the foundation stone is the point where heaven and earth meet. This is where a man can approach God. This is where God is actually, His presence in this world. So yes, that's the foundation stone of the world. Believing that God is not something which is only transcendental. God is not something which is only intimate, but it's a connection between transcendental and intimate. It's that God is, yes, He's greater than anything, but He's also here with us.
Now that's brought me on to another point because the foundation stone, you've said in the book, is something that we should be there should be some reverence and not going in. I mean, we can't go in at the moment anyway because we're not allowed
According
to
to
enter.
Jewish law, we're not allowed to go in there. Also, because it's the foundation stone is also where the Holy of Holies stood. So the Holy of Holies of the temple.
It was
First
actually
and second
over
was on that stone.
Right.
And it's very interesting. We see when you get there, it's bedrock, but you see it's carved exactly the size of that's 20 cubits, exactly the size, 20 cubits by 20 cubits, exactly the size of the Holy of Holies. And that was the floor of the Holy of Holies in the first and second temple. In the first temple, the Ark of Covenant stood there. Again, the connection between heaven and earth, where the Ark of Covenant represents the covenant between God and people. It also has put together of two parts. It's the Ark and the Kruvim. And the Kruvim, which represent the godly protection over the world, where God is here, He's with us. And therefore, that is where the Ark stood in the first temple. That is where Solomon's great, large Kruvim stood in the second temple. In the first temple, like the Solomon temple, the Kruvim were not only part of the Ark, but they had existence on their own, and they were standing there on the foundation stone of the world. So there we are connecting to all of this. In the second temple, there was no Ark, but there was the stone. So when the high priest once a year went into the Holy of Holies, he saw the stone and he remembered, yes, we're connected.
And it's just recently been Yom Kippur, so it's something we're thinking about because it's the time when
the only day of the year,
When
the
we-
only day of the year where the high priest goes into the temple, to the Holy of Holies. It's something. It's the Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, is where we're clean from all of our sins, and it's like we're returning to the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden, where the place where man and God are like walking together and talking together, and the high priest is like clean, wearing the white clothes, going into the Holy of Holies, going into the Garden of Eden to be in the presence of God, and that's what the Day of Atonement is all about, and that's what the entering. So once a year, we're all clean from the sins, and there the high priest is like representing all of us in front of God. He's representing all of humanity. He's actually Adam. He comes back to become what Adam was, a servant of God in the Holy of Holies in the Garden of Eden.
Now, when we go to visit the Temple Mount, and our viewers, this is something I recommend that you do when you visit.
Please do. It's very important. Please don't skip this. That's the, when people come to visit Israel, the only reason they come to visit Israel is because it's the only place in the world where you can open the book and walk in the footsteps of the book. What's the most sanctified place in the world? And as mentioned in the book, the place where King David purchased it, the place where King Solomon built the temple. That's the whole story of the book is around the Temple Mount.
And there's an entrance to it. You go to the western wall, and then there's another entrance.
It's called the Mugrabi Gate, yes.
Yeah.
And that's the bridge,
Now,
the ramp.
Some of our viewers who are very observant will see there's a sign which says from the chief rabbinate that Jewish people shouldn't ascend the Temple Mount.
It's important to understand that the Temple Mount really is something which, as I said before, is not a playground. You don't just go there. And now, at the beginning, when after so many years we came back, the rabbinate was very, very fearful that people would be walking around and turn it into a playground, and therefore they put up a sign: "Don't go in there." But according to Jewish law, you go into the Temple Mount only if you prepare yourself. Jews have to go to a ritual bath, but even if you don't, you wear respectful clothing. You're coming to visit the palace of God. You're coming to the courtyard of the palace. So the rabbinate doesn't want everybody walking around there, but slowly more and more Jews are feeling that the time has come, because the alternative is that the place is becoming a place which desecrates God's name. Because if in the place people calling in the name of God, Allahu Akbar, and calling for hate and for incitement, that's a great danger for the place. And therefore, we're very happy Muslims are there, we're very happy Christians are there, we're very happy, but you can't turn a place of God who represents life in His name to call out, to kill, to call out words of hate. God's name is Shalom, peace. Jerusalem is the original of the city of peace, Ir Shalom. The person who built the temple was Solomon, Shalom, Shlomo, which means the Temple Mount is supposed to represent peace. And therefore, yes, we have to return there, because if we don't return there, there's no vacuum.
And what's the reaction of Jewish people when they first go up onto Temple Mount? You have the privilege of doing a lot of tours and taking people up there.
Not only Jews or non-Jews, anybody goes to Temple Mount, you suddenly feel like you're like transparent. You're standing there, the only place in the world where a person is obligated to go there. But not only that, you feel. Of course, you have to tune in. You have to really stand there and try to move away the bothering noises. But you're really standing there to see and to be seen. And that's what the Torah teaches us. A person has to understand that when you're in front of God, you're not in front of a TV camera where you can put a makeup on. You're in front of God, and you're totally transparent. And very, very often, you're there, and you're full and satisfied with what you're doing, and you really feel good there. You feel, here, God, I'm doing the mission you wanted me to do. Sometimes you can stand there and praise, and sometimes you can ask for something. People are there, they really feel like they're talking to God, and they say, listen, I'm looking for my mate. I have financial difficulties. That's where you can talk to God. Or you want to thank God. Whenever I go there, I always thank God. I'm so lucky that I married the most wonderful wife in the world. So that's what I go there, to talk to God, to thank Him. I feel like He's been with me all the time. He's pulling the strings. And that's where I go, and I really express what I feel. And I stand there, and I try to understand what my next mission is.
Well, thank you so much for coming in the studio today, Yehudah. It's been a wonderful program, and we've been talking about the Arise and Ascend book, which you can get from the details on the screen. Don't forget to get that. So much information in here, and it will be a very important reference book to look at and to know when they visit Israel. And when you visit Jerusalem and when you visit the Temple Mount, you'll have all the information in. And you can take your time to read it, because there's so much here you can just dip into and learn more.
So much, but it's all just a taste. We hope it'll open your appetite, because there's so much to know about it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you'd like to email us, don't forget you can email us at info@inthelastdays.com. We love to receive your emails, and remember, we're living in the last days.
You've been watching In the Last Days, a TV program with Martin and Natalie Blackham, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. If you would like to financially support the program or find out about conferences, meetings, or ministry products, then please contact us with the details on your screen. Visit our easy-to-use website at www.inthelastdays.com and register for our free e-newsletter. Get the latest news from Israel, product information, online video teaching, or watch today's TV program at a time that's convenient to you. Thank you again, friends and partners, for making this program possible.
See you same time, same station for the next program from In the Last Days.